Justin.
Hank, how's it going, man?
Oh, good. How are you?
I'm good. It's always weird when we're here without Andre or RK. It kind of feels like the kids are loose in the house, but we're coming up.
Exactly.
Our stock is going through the roof.
Yeah. And I mean, if we make good picks, then it definitely will be. But it is always weird when you're like, oh, yeah, time to write out this tweet. Because then, like, halfway through that intro, you realize nobody's bailing you out. Like, you don't get to sit there and keep typing for like 10 more seconds if your tweet's not ready. And it's like, okay, we got to get going. It's good, though. It's good to have that sort of pressure.
We thrive under the pressure, man. We're like diamonds. Gotta push us until we shine.
I hope so. Also, Mike Trout from the Madden League trying to get Lamar Jackson. Sorry, I was an incompetent GM this offseason while I was trying to field trade offers, but then kind of ghosted the entire league for a bit. And now he's still on my team, and it's too late to make a deal.
Now that's like how some NBA GMs operate. You like float out that somebody is for sale, you know, and then you ghost everyone. You make everybody think you're not interested. You keep them just offering more and more and more and more because they know you put them on the table at one point. I like it. It'll work out long term, but that's
a nice way of putting it. More realistically, I'm like the Texans just falling asleep at the wheel, but I like the way you said it. But yeah, bets. Oh, my first bet of the day, I'm going to the Rockies game tonight. Decided not to buy tickets earlier because it's about to start raining, and I figured when the rain starts, the tickets will be cheaper. So if anybody else is going to the Rockies game, use that betting strategy, sort of.
You're banking on the weather. I like it. I mean, it is looking kind of dark out. I think you might be able to score some nice seats. They're playing the lowly Pirates. I can't see the demand being super high. I don't know any Pittsburgh Pirate fans in my life, but that doesn't mean you're not out there, I guess.
I don't even think I know a Pittsburgh Pirate, to be honest. I don't think I could name one because McCutcheon's not there anymore, right?
He is not. Yeah, I cannot name a Pittsburgh Pirate at the moment either. This is the least attached I've been to the MLB as a whole in quite some time, though. So I guess I can't say that's shocking.
And it's for so many reasons. Like, obviously, it starts with the Rockies being awful, and there's just no reason to emotionally invest or bet on them or watch or anything like that. But on top of it, you have the Avs going into the end of June. And so you can't even get pushed over to that. It's a bad year to be the Rockies. And now that we've said that we aren't paying much attention and don't know who's playing for...
I've been watching the Rockies. I'm just saying I haven't been watching the entire MLB. But like you said, I mean, when you have a deep NBA playoff run, when you have your NHL team go to the Stanley Cup, I can't say I'm watching Sunday Night Baseball. I'm watching, I'm watching whatever game is relevant in the playoff landscape. But I will say I have a nice little parlay tied up with the Rockies win total. It was the Avalanche to win the Stanley Cup and then the Rockies to win over 68.5. So the race to 69 does matter for me. I will be invested all year.
Do we know what the pace is right now?
They're on pace to win about 75 games at the moment.
Okay, so they picked up. Oh yeah, because they just won those last few. What is their record? Let's see if I can find that here. I guess while we do that, let's hit your big three.
All right, yeah, let's get into it. If we want to pull it up here, we've got the Rockies taking on Pittsburgh. Neither of these teams are very good. That's just the delicate way to put it. The Rockies do have Germán Marquez on the mound. He has been a little bit inconsistent. I had been betting on the no-run first inning, and it had kind of been killing me at Coors Field pretty consistently. So I'm going the opposite. I'm going counterintuitive. I'm going with more runs to be scored in the first inning, over 1.5 to be specific, at plus 145. These first inning bets are such a crapshoot. I mean, you're just kind of trying to guess whether the teams are going to come out hot or not. But in a hitter's park with a couple of teams that don't exactly have aces on the mound, you're hoping Germán can respond if you're a Rockies fan. But I like the odds here. After that, we're going to keep it in the NL West. Real quick, we'll just do Dodgers money line. They've got Kershaw on the mound. They're taking on the Angels. The Angels are terrible. They have two of the best players in the world and somehow are pretty much just as bad as the Rockies. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Then you've got San Francisco taking on Milwaukee in the Bay. I'm going under. These are two really good teams. You've got a couple of decent pitchers on the hill. I like the plus value. It feels like games in San Francisco tend to be it's a pitcher's park inherently. It's cold there. It's windy. It's big. I'm going with the under. I'm kind of just value chasing here and hoping that I can hit 2 of the 3. That's my goal for the night. But that's where I'm at.
I feel like that's a good move. This game though, it reminds me when Colorado, the Buffaloes, not the Rockies, played Arizona this fall. I had a bunch of friends come up who don't pay attention to college football, so like they didn't really realize what they were getting into. And I remember I was reading like the ESPN preview, and they called it the college football pillow fight of the week, which I thought was a very great award to be giving out. But this kind of feels that same way, where we do have a little bit of a pillow fight going on here. We can hit my big 3 next, though. Herman Marquez over 4.5 strikeouts. I still think he's good. I know that's kind of, I guess, turning controversial because he's been not so good, but 4.5 strikeouts, I like it. You know, I guess with the rain, you kind of wonder maybe if you lose a little bit of command, but again, these strikeout bets, they're just the go-to. And when you play the Pirates, I feel like you can get some strikeouts. Charlie Blackmon over 1.5 bases. It's Chuck. It's a Friday night. Like everybody's out at the rooftop having a good time. Like I feel like this is when he thrives. You're gonna have like all the drunk 26-year-old girls on the rooftop. I feel like Friday night, maybe Saturday night a little bit more, but Friday night is the night where they're all up there. And you know, they gets the walk-up song going. Everybody's gonna be singing the Tonight part. Feels like a big Chuck night. Exactly. Yeah. It's Friday. Those are the vibes. But you just need the double, 2 singles. He's got it tonight. I feel like he's got it tonight. And then got to jump over to golf with the final one. We got Matt Fitzpatrick to finish in the top 10 at plus 115. I think he might be just outside. He might be like 12th right now or 11th right now, but he was so hot today. And he got a little bit unlucky yesterday. It was kind of a weird group. He was playing with Tiger and Max Homa for these first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
And everybody was struggling that first day, and it was just ugly. And nobody was like laughing or having fun. The vibes were just bad. Then today went out there, he tore it up. He's somebody who should be good on this golf course. Like he's a thinker, not a hitter. And this is a thinker's course. So plus money to finish in the top 10. I am all in on it.
I like that. I like betting on a guy who's just outside the top 10. I've had a lot of success doing that as far as golf goes. I'm not great at picking winners, but I have been pretty good about finding the value of getting the hot guy of who's going to, end up finishing in the top 10, especially if you get like a good golfer who didn't necessarily have like a terrible day, but has a slow start, so maybe they're 1 over par or something like that. Like just count on them to get back in the mix.
Yeah, it's easy to get bad breaks out there, which I guess makes betting on anybody a little bit nerve-wracking. But you just look at some of the names in that top 10 and think like, you're not going to be up there at the end. There's no way you're going to be up there at the end. So there we go. Those are the big 3s. We get to use our expertise later on. Usually I don't get to do that on this podcast. It's mostly as Dre saying like, oh, what about this soccer thing? It's like, yeah. At Italy, whatever.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, but we've got some college football stuff that we're going to dig into in a second. First, though, a shout out to the presenting sponsor of this podcast of DNVR Bets Daily, DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings has made the last couple of days really fun for me because there's so many golf bets. I don't know how many units. I think I have like 8 or 9 units out on this golf tournament right now, mostly just on like different winners. And, strategy, you just keep adding one more winner every day, use that 18% boost, and then see if one of like your 3 that are in it on the final day can pull it out and give you a big win. It makes it a lot of fun. So I've been having the time of my life. I actually, when was it? No, that was 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, I took the best bet in sports, which is a draw in a soccer game. I had the Rapids to tie whoever the Rapids were playing a couple nights ago.
What a horribly boring thing to root for, though.
But it's soccer. Like, that's the thing. You lean into it.
No, the odds of it hitting have got to be through the roof. I'm sure like 60% of the time at least.
Right? And they're like, yeah, we'll give you plus 275 on a tie in a soccer game. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, that should be minus 300. That happens every single time. But yeah, so took that, parlayed it with the Rockies after the Rockies had let a couple of Padres on base. Wound up getting that thing to plus 900 with those two. It hit. So it's been a good time. And it's all thanks to our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Although there might not be what some of us refer to as real sports happening right now, we do have baseball. We do have MMA.
Are you saying baseball's not a real sport?
I'm kind of out on baseball right now.
But golf is a sport, but baseball's not a sport?
I haven't. It's kind of half-baked right now. Where maybe golf isn't either.
That's a terrible take, but go ahead. Go on.
Okay, but the Rockies suck, so I don't care about baseball that much. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code DNVR. Make your first deposit. You'll get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code DNVR only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Or if you're in one of these states, call those states instead. As you could see on your screen. No, call those numbers instead. Don't call the states. States won't help. But there we go. And on to our dilemma of the day, which I half spoiled beforehand. That dilemma is, where is the value in college football win totals? We are using our college football expertise to run through some of the win totals, which I think on DraftKings just got posted in the last week or so. If I'm not wrong, I'd seen some others around, but I hadn't been able to get in and take the Buffs over 3 wins. So Justin, when I brought up to you, let's do college football win totals, what was like the first team that came to your mind?
Well, I mean, initially I thought about the big boys, but then I was starting to think, like, where can you find value? And I don't actually think there's great value in betting on the win totals for the teams that you expect to be in the college football playoff conversation. At that point, you might as well just bet on them to win the whole thing or something, because you're going to get better odds. I always try and find the teams that like underperform slightly but return a bunch of veterans and should be better than expected.
Okay.
Or the complete opposite, the team that is coming off of a great year. Everybody's like, oh, they're going to win 8 games again, and you fade them and, bet on them to miss bowl eligibility altogether. That's kind of where I lean, is just trying to find those weird teams that are somewhere in between, but you have a reason to believe. That the transfer portal is also the interesting equation in all of this, because then you just have entire teams that completely flip, and it's like it could go either way.
Absolutely.
Where do you go? Like, when you brought this up, what were you thinking?
I go Pac-12 first. First thought is USC.
Bet what you know.
Exactly. And so you think like USC, way overhyped. They're not that good. They also have a pretty easy schedule. I think they start with like Rice and then maybe Fresno's next, which isn't like the easiest game, but when you're talking about USC, it's like they should probably win that. Wait, yeah, it is Fresno. So I want to take the under. That 9.5 number is just a little bit lower than I liked. I think I'd still go under there. But when I look through some of the others, Stanford over 4.5 wins at plus 120. I think that might be my favorite in the Pac-12 right now, just because they have talent. Like, they have Tanner McKee at quarterback. They've got a good quarterback. They lost their running back, but those are kind of replaceable. Their line's always good. Their defense underperformed last year. Like, they aren't a Pac-12 title contender this year, probably, but getting to 5 wins, like, it's Stanford. They're not going to blow you away, but they should at least be competing for bowl eligibility, especially at plus money.
Am I crazy for thinking that the over is the play for CU's win total?
I took the over. So it's set at 3. And again, like, they're unlikely to be favored in any game this season. If you go out there and you upset TCU in Minnesota, then all of a sudden things change and you might be favored in one. But as of today, they aren't favored in any game. And when you have that situation, I don't think they're favored against Cal. No, I don't even think they're favored against Arizona, which is
all right.
But man, again, there's winnable games out there.
Yeah, I think that the consensus at this point is too low on CU, and that's I'm a CSU guy. Like I'm telling you guys this from a betting perspective. I think that there's enough to like there in a Pac-12 that shouldn't be like super challenging. I mean, it's just really top heavy. The Mountain West and Pac-12 are going to be similar in that way, that the top is going to be really good and the bottom's going to be absolutely terrible. The UNLVs, the New Mexicos of the world. CU though, I mean, I do think if you take the over, you're banking on Brendan Lewis obviously progressing if he is the guy, or JT Shrout coming in and making a bigger impact than Lewis was able to make, because that offense last year was borderline inept for basically the entire season. And CSU's was no better. I mean, it was a brutal year of football, whether you're watching the Broncos, CSU, or CU. Shout out Air Force, though, the best program in the state. I just think people are a little too down on this Buffs team. I think they're a 4-8 team, so I'm taking the over.
Exactly, and that's where I'm at too. And when I made the bet, so it was a parlay first of all. So I parlayed that with the Broncos, I think, to win 9 games, with the Nuggets to win the Western Conference, and then the Avs to win the title. So it's kind of like a tiered thing where you throw just a little bit of money down, and it's like, okay, if the Buffs can make it through the season, then you have like a thing to be excited about. Like
it's like my $10 parlay. If you take a $10 bet and you parlay CSU to win the Mountain West, which is already at plus 3,500, but it's the transfer portal era, so really, who knows? Like, I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying who knows. We watched Utah State get picked last year, then revamp their team with the transfer portal and win it. Anyways, if you a 2-pick parlay of CSU to win the Mountain West and the Denver Broncos to win the AFC West, that gets you odds of plus 1,200, 860. A $10 bet would pay $1,300 if that were to hit. Just for reference out there for the Rams/Broncos fans listening. If you want to place a bet that I'd call it a pipe dream, but it could happen. Like it's not, like you're betting on them to win the college football playoff or something. You're banking on the Broncos to be much improved and CSU to win the Mountain West in that scenario. Anyways, just throwing that out there. Let's go back to the Pac-12.
Yeah, but that's why, like, those 4 that I had with the Nuggets and the Avs, plus 12,595. And so again, like, the Buffs make it through, and then the Broncos make it through, then you ride the Nuggets as far as you can, and if you get lucky there, then all of a sudden you have an Avs ticket worth a lot of money. So I don't know, seemed fun, but get like 3. They should be able to get 3, you would think.
What's Utah's win total listed at?
That's where we were going next. I've got to pull it up to double check here. But I thought it was, I can't remember if it was 8.5 or 9.5. I think it was 9.5, but I wanted the over. There it is. Utah's 9. That's what it is.
I like the over a lot there.
I know they're the best team in the conference. Like, you wonder if Oregon is, and who knows? I mean, maybe USC does get hot and they are able to put things together. But Utah, to me, is pretty easily the best team in the conference. Like,
they're well coached, great home field atmosphere, probably the best home field advantage in the conference.
Probably. And on top of that, a top 3 quarterback in the conference, good running backs, one of the best secondaries, probably top 10 secondary in the country. And then you know that they're going to be good in the trenches. They have two of the 3 preseason all Pac-12 tight ends. And so you just see all these different things here. It's like, that's not a team that underperforms. Like, they will live up to their potential every single year. It's just that their potential keeps getting better because they keep being so successful. So yeah, over 9 at minus 105. Big fan of that one.
I like Utah to win the Pac-12 too. We've talked about that before, but plus 250. USC, the betting favorite, at plus 210.
That's hype.
USC has the most talent in the league, but I would rather put my money on the experience in Utah, the continuity of the roster, the same coaching staff basically for a decade plus at this point. I mean, they keep their coordinators too. It's not just that they have Whittingham. It's Morgan Scaley's still around and all these guys. UCLA at plus 900 is kind of intriguing too to win the conference.
Only because the number is so big. Like
yeah, it's the value there. It's not necessarily like I think UCLA is great, but they were intriguing at moments last year.
Mm-hmm. And they've had the same quarterback. What, this will be 4 years with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and he's gotten
Feels
just a little bit better every year. They've got the running game going. The defense, I don't think, is good enough to win the conference, because that's the thing in the Pac-12 is you look every single year, and the team that wins the conference, it is just like the most physical team. Like it's been Oregon, it's been Utah. Before that, it was Washington, Oregon in there, Stanford in there doing the same thing. But that's why UCLA, I don't think they're going to do it. But again, at plus 900, that's not a bad bet at all. My other one from the Pac-12 though, Arizona State under 6.5 wins, minus 140. So it's not great juice, but that might be the worst team in the conference. Like they're slacking just about everywhere. And it's
I saw a tweet the other day that said like minus 100 to minus 150 sports bets are the mid-range jump shots of sports betting. Like we totally overlook them. I'll go for the 3 when sometimes you should just take that open jump shot.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the other one that I go to. It's just that's just going to happen. That's going to happen.
They're so bad. And I mean, you've got to factor in all the drama. Who knows if they'll even have a coaching staff by the time this year's done, although it does seem like they're scapegoating literally everyone but Herm. So who knows how that all plays out, but interesting.
Want to head over to maybe the Big Ten next? Or do you have Mountain West stuff still?
I'll throw out just real quick. Cool. I think the Mountain West, Boise State is always going to get the benefit of the doubt, and I do think they will be better than they were last year, especially defensively. But Fresno State to win the league at plus 230. I know this isn't win totals. I just have my notes here. I really like that. They've got the best quarterback in the conference and Jake Haener coming back. Really talented wide receiver in Jalen Cropper, a guy that might be a Biletnikoff semifinalist if he can build off what he's done the last 3 years. And then outside of them, Air Force at plus 400. They got just so much experience. Hazik Daniels, quarterback, running back, Brad Roberts. They're tough as hell. Man, I would not want to play Air Force this year. And both of the local schools in our lives do. So we'll see how that one ends up playing out. I think there's a strong chance Air Force gets the sweep, if we're being honest. But we shall see. I do like CSU's over, though. I think CSU is going to be a bowl team this year. I don't know if they're going to be absurd or anything like that. You know, I'd come in and shock the world, go 11-1, something like that. But I do think that going 6-6 is very reasonable, particularly with their schedule.
Yep. Yeah, I think so too. They just have good vibes. Like,
they're going to score a lot of points. Football. Like, I don't know if they're going to be the best team in the world. They've definitely got some holes when it comes to depth. I think they're a couple of injuries away in the secondary from being in a rough spot, but I do like the starters that they have. They need the offensive line to hold up. It's going to be 5 new starters. Anytime you're in that position, it's a little bit unnerving. That said, it's not like 5 freshmen. It's a bunch of transfers that have all started 30 plus games at other places. There'll be some bumps and bruises along the way, particularly opening at Michigan. I mean, that's getting baptized by fire. But once you play in the big house, I don't think they're exactly going to be overwhelmed by, the San Jose States and Nevadas of the world.
Absolutely. Speaking of Michigan, I've got the Michigan State over, and I hate saying that, obviously, but it's set at 7.5 games. That's a good team, especially when you look at the non-conference schedule. They start against Western Michigan, they get Akron the next week, and then they play at Washington week 3. And Washington, really bad last year. Lost to Montana, which Montana is a very good football team, but again, like Montana, Michigan State, different things. Washington has a bunch of talent. It might be one of the 10 most talented teams, 15 most talented teams if you just look at like recruiting rankings. Still, though, I don't think that they're winning that game. So if you can get a team to go 8-4 and you feel good about them starting 3-0, that at least makes it puts you in a good position going forward. Now, and tough conference schedule with Michigan in there and Penn State and Ohio State and Wisconsin, and who knows if maybe
you can't lose any of the games you have to win in that scenario. Like
Yep.
You could hit this and still lose to Michigan, still lose to Ohio State, but you can't lose to the Iowas of the world.
Yep. So again, it's maybe not the easiest path, but I do think that that's a pretty solid team that's in good position with a nice, easy start.
I like it. Who is there anybody in the Big Ten that can push for against Ohio State? Because right now that they're the most drastic favorite to win their league of any of the teams around. It's like minus 300, I think, last time I checked.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think it is Ohio State. And I have a bad habit when it comes to college football of just expecting the favorites to win. But again, like if you do that, like the fun in college football is that that's not what always happens. But it seems like big picture, more often than not, you wind up with Bama and Ohio State and Clemson and Notre Dame, some combination of like the same 4 teams. And maybe sometimes somebody else gets in, but Ohio State winning the Big Ten, I really like it. I've got the parlay Ohio State to win the Big Ten, Bama to win the SEC, the Packers to win the NFC North. That's 3-1 odds. Like I will take 3-1 odds on those 3 favorites to handle business. But I mean, could they be pushed? Yeah. I mean, Michigan could push them. Like Wisconsin, maybe Graham Mertz figures out how to play football and lives up to the hype. But I wouldn't bet on either of those. Like maybe Penn State turns things around, but they seem like they're like an 8-win team to me and not a national title contender, which is what you have to be to compete with Ohio State.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Penn State because they're an interesting one for me because like they got the quarterback. You know, you've got again another team with great home field advantage, but they've got a deceptively tough schedule compared to some of the other teams in the Big Ten. And I don't know, they just I feel like they're one of the Big Ten teams that is like the sexy sleeper pick. You know what I mean? If you're not backing Ohio State, then the people are picking Penn State. I'd rather back Michigan or even like Iowa at plus 2,000. And Iowa is just, they're going to go like 8-4 and they'll win a couple of games they shouldn't. And then they'll lose a couple of games that they shouldn't and will be relatively underwhelming, but they're well coached. They have a ton of continuity on both sides of the football at plus 2,000. Like if you wanted to bet on one of those long shots, that's probably who it would be. But I don't recommend putting your money on anybody to win the Big Ten other than Ohio State. It just feels like wasted money.
I totally agree. Leaving the Big Ten, I kind of like Florida. And I feel like it's easy to like Florida just because, I mean, it's Florida, right? Like they're going to have good talent. They're going to have like a couple of freaky receivers.
One of my favorite hires this offseason, though, Billy Napier's a stud. That's a guy who's waited a long time. He's turned down multiple Power 5 gigs until he got the one he wanted. And he knows the region well, really dynamic play caller. I like Florida, too. The big thing with them, though, is, you know, who do they have a quarterback? Because they haven't for about a half a decade now.
And that's the reason I like him, because I'm all in on Anthony Richardson. And he could wind up being just like a flash in the pan flame out, but he's just so big and he runs and he has a massive arm. And it's just, I feel like it's
vibes.
Exactly. And he's so exciting. Like Cam Newton, Tim Tebow. I don't know. It's more of a bet on him than anything else. But again, you throw in Billy Napier, all that stuff. Over 7 wins, I kind of like, especially on a bet like this, to have that push in there too. It's like you can, if they can just get to 7, at least you get your money back. But to get 8 or more,
they're on the softer side of the SEC too. You know, like inherently, the road to 8 wins is much easier on that half of the division.
Yeah, and the reason I don't like it is because their first game is against Utah, and so I'm kind of tempted to just.
Where is that game? That's got to be a neutral site game, right?
I'm actually not sure. I can check real quick though.
Either that or the Swamp. I can't imagine Florida agreed to come to Salt Lake City.
It is in the Swamp. That's gonna be a fun one. I've got Utah. That's gonna be a fun one.
I'm gonna bet on Utah to win that game. Whatever the money line ends up being.
Yeah, I wonder if we have it up yet.
There's week 0 and week 1 lines. They won't have a money line, but they'll have the line, the point total, and all that.
Utah's a 2-point favorite.
Oh shoot! See, no, the value's not like. I do think they're better, but I want the juice if you're going into SEC territory. At that point, I'm more inclined to bet on the home dog.
Yeah.
As much as I believe in Utah.
Over under 52.5. It's a little high.
That's a little high. I like the under, I think. Utah.
I thought that's why I brought it up.
Yeah. I'm going to have to, I mean, we'll have to kind of look into the depth of the D line and stuff like that before we start talking about that. But, oh man, I'm so excited. They've already got, I know we've been all over the place here, but week 0 and week 1 lines. I've already mentioned this on a couple of pods, on the draft pod in particular, but Hawaii plays at home in week 0 and week 1. In week 0, they host Vanderbilt, and they are 6.5-point underdogs on the island. Now, Hawaii, along with Wyoming and who was the other team? Another Mountain West team, lost more production from last year than anybody in the country. But they had a dynamite hire. It's like CSU. You're betting on the vibes just being completely better. They got Timmy Chang, the hometown kid comes back to save the program after just a terrible coach. I really like Hawaii. 6.5 at home. There is not a better home field advantage, especially early. And it's not like it's Vanderbilt. Like, come on. Hawaii at home. I don't care if they've got a middle schooler at quarterback. I'm picking them at home. In week 1, they're 12.5-point underdogs at home to Western Kentucky. And I know that Western Kentucky was great last year, but Bailey Zapp's no longer in the picture. Yep. They're coming a whole long ways.
Is that Western Kentucky's first game?
Yes.
Even better.
Yeah, that's what the fact that that line's only going to go down.
Yeah.
I would bet, especially on that 12.5 right now. I think that's free money.
I might have to do that right now. Also, on Hawaii losing production, everybody always looks at that as a bad thing, but it might be similar to CU where it's like, well, yeah, you lost a lot of guys to the transfer portal, but also when you win 4 games, don't you kind of want a bunch of turnover? Like, at least there's a chance the new guys will be like good. There's I don't think it's probably likely. It's not like Hawaii recruits incredibly well, but at least there's the chance that they found a little bit of talent in there.
I think more than anything, you're just betting. I mean, that locker room was broken. Todd Graham had a pretty toxic culture. They lost, just everybody wanted out. Very similar to Steve Adazio, just in terms of you had a guy just kind of bullying everybody. And I just think when it comes to general atmosphere, you can't underestimate that kind of impact, especially when it's these weird matchups. Like, I'm not saying that would be enough to help Hawaii all of a sudden upset USC. But is it enough to make them be competitive at home against Vanderbilt? Probably.
I think we can leave it at that. I think those are some good bets. I mean, we've got a little less than 3 weeks to study up on the Raiders and Jags before the Hall of Fame game. Pretty excited about that.
Can't wait, dude.
Gonna make so much money on the Hall of Fame game. We're so close. That's gonna do it for today. Somebody will be back on this podcast on Monday. I have no idea.
It might be us. We don't know.
Who's to say? I think Dre's still going to be in Italy, so he's going to say like, "Oh, Italian internet's bad," something like that. But like I said, that's it for today. Shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook for making this possible, and somebody will see you on Monday.